really important, deep issues that seem to be under a particular focus at the moment, given our current situation. And of course, our general focus is looking forward. It's thinking about the future in the light of what's been happening in our lives over the last couple of months. I think during a time of separation like this, we come to really value our community itself and our being in community. I think we've realized that it's something really to treasure. One of the characteristics of our community is its diversity. In the words of our speaker last week, Reverend Dr. Sam Wells, God is more diverse than creation. I think we're familiar with this concept. We express it through our school goal, unity through diversity. We can sometimes take this noble objective for granted within the safety of Marymount. But as we experience the world, we realize that many people reject the very notion of unity through diversity and instead assume that anyone who does not look, think, live like them is somehow deficient. Unity through diversity does not mean anything goes, taking a kind of laissez-faire approach to ethical behavior and action. But it does point to a loving acceptance and celebration of our own and others' being. In our diversity as a community, we represent a wide array of political viewpoints, and I am sure a wide array of opinions about our honoured guest, Speaker Gingrich. What we can agree is that his enormous experience, his undoubted achievements in politics, and his life journey make him someone with valuable insights into our current and future world. With that, I'd like to pass over to our student Alessandro, who will introduce Speaker Gingrich to us.
Today I have the pleasure of introducing the 50th Speaker of the House of Representatives of the United States, Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, it's an honor to have you joining us today and to share your insights on religion and politics. Newton Leroy Gingrich was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. His father was an army officer, and Speaker Gingrich spent many of his teenage years during the Cold War living on military bases in Europe, including Orléans, France, and Stuttgart, Germany, where he began to develop an interest in European history. The family returned to the United States, and Speaker Gingrich graduated from high school in Columbus, Georgia. He obtained his undergraduate degree in history at Emory University in Atlanta, and his master's and PhD in European history from Tulane University in New Orleans. Speaker Gingrich began a career in academia as a history professor at West Georgia College. During his 8 years on campus, he was instrumental in establishing the college's interdisciplinary environmental studies program. He left academia in 1978, following his election to Congress to represent Georgia's 6th congressional district. In Washington, he was an active congressman who created a group for young conservative House Republicans, the Conservative Opportunity Society. In 1989, he became House Minority Whip and vowed to strengthen the party. During the 1994 campaign, Gingrich joined with other Republican congressmen to provide an alternative to Democrats' policies. But this resulting in the document, The Compact for America. This included 8 reforms and 10 wide-ranging bills to be brought to a vote in the first 100 days of a new Congress. Policy proposals ranged from welfare reform to a balanced budget amendment. The 1994 campaign was an overwhelming success for House Republicans, who gained control of the House after 4 years of control by Democrats, and Gingrich became Speaker of the House. In 1995, he was named Time's Man of the Year for his role in ending 4 decades-long Democratic majority in the House. The magazine noted that all year, Gingrich hammered away at his agenda. In doing so, he changed the country's center of gravity. One important legislative success was delivering pressure on President Bill Clinton to sign into law welfare reform legislation, which he did in 1996. Gingrich served as House Speaker until 1999, when he resigned from Congress. Since leaving elected politics, Speaker Gingrich has been involved in a wide range of activities, including work with consulting, nonprofit work, policy advice, healthcare, think tanks, writing, video production, and academia. He was an early supporter of Donald Trump when he emerged as the Republican candidate in the 2016 elections. He regularly appears on Fox News as a commentator on national events. Speaker Gingrich expresses views which are not shared by all, but which contribute to the conversation regarding issues and policy. Married to the United States ambassador to the Holy See, Callista Gingrich, he currently lives in Rome and has created the Catholics for Trump movement ahead of the 2020 American presidential elections. Again, it is a true honor to have you joining us today to share your insights on religion and politics. Thank you for making room in your busy schedule to speak with us today.
I want to thank Marymount for inviting me. I think it is terrific that you're doing this. I'm going to just say a handful of things, partially about life, partially about the world we're living in, and then toss it open for questions from anybody who wants to. And I am delighted to have a chance to do this. I have 2 daughters who are grown and 2 grandchildren, one of whom is a sophomore in college at Davidson College in North Carolina, and the other one is graduating from high school this year. So I have a deep interest in education, as does my wife, Callista. I think just a couple of basic ideas for the young people who are on the program. One, I encourage you to dream big. We're going through an unusual moment in time. I think you'll be able to look back on this the rest of your life and tell stories about it. But it shouldn't be something which fundamentally stops you or slows you down. Life will go on. We will bounce back. In fact, one of the things that is really striking to me is the momentum of science and technology on a worldwide basis, and how many things we're doing better and faster, whether it's going into space, or it is scientific research for vaccines, or it is developing better methods of growing food, or better methods of communicating. I mean, just the very fact that we can have this meeting electronically would have been impossible 25 years ago. We're all going to learn how to do this, and we will be a much more electronic community when this is over. And we'll have a lot more people who stay connected easily and comfortably without travel than would have happened probably in a 25-year period without a crisis like the pandemic. We will recover economically. We will rebuild our momentum as a species. One of the interesting paradoxes of the pandemic is, on the one hand, it teaches us that the whole planet's connected, that something can happen in Wuhan, China, and it has a direct effect in Rome or in Washington or you name it. The second is that a lot of how we live that out is very personal. I've spent 9 weeks now basically under house arrest. Finally, this last weekend, Callista and I went out with our masks on and went to look at a few things. And we're both looking forward next week on the 18th if stores start to open up. But on the one hand, we experience this as a very personal thing. On the other hand, we are part of a huge worldwide activity simultaneously. And that's sort of the paradox of our generation. I would say to all of you, we will need your ideas, we'll need your work, we'll need your courage. There is an enormous amount to be done to get the human race where we want it to be, so we can be self-governing, have the rule of law, have everybody fed without anybody being left out, have good health for everybody. These are big goals, but they're doable. And you know they're doable if you just walk around Rome and think about the thousands of years of history you're looking at here and realize how much Rome has changed, how much better off we are than in Roman times or in the Middle Ages. We may love the paintings, the sculpture, and the music of the Renaissance, but believe me, we have a lot better lives. We live a lot longer. It's a lot more comfortable today than it would have been if we'd been dropped into, say, 1570 or 1550. So I think we have a chance to make it an even better future for all of us. I think politics does matter. I encourage all of you to remember that your role as citizen is a very important part of this. You can't have self-government if you don't have people who are willing to be involved in politics. It's just that simple. Politics is very hard. It's very frustrating. And I realize that for a lot of people, there's a sense of I don't really want to get involved in all that. And my only point to all of you is that there are an amazing number of really big decisions that are made by politics and government. And if good people don't get involved, then you leave a space for bad people to dominate. So I would hope that each of you at some point in your life would set aside some time and some effort and some resources to try to be good citizens. Because if we don't have good citizens, we can't sustain a free society. We can't sustain the rule of law. And I think that's a very, very important part of maintaining freedom. And I think, frankly, freedom really matters because if you think about it, every one of you in the end wants to be free. You don't want to be owned by somebody else or controlled by somebody else or told how to live your life by somebody else. So for us to be free, I think we have to go through this process, and we have to be prepared to invest in self-government, invest in the rule of law, invest in public dialogue and public debate. I think the last thing I'll say before I toss it back to all of you is try to learn to listen to the other side as well as think about your own side. I found a couple of key phrases I will give you that I learned during a very long process. I ran for Congress for 5 years. I lost twice. I won the third time. I tried to create a majority. When I got to Congress, we had not been a majority since 1954. I arrived in December of 78, and I set out to create a majority. Well, truth is, we failed to become a majority in 1980, 82, 84, 86, 88, 90, and 92. So by the time we finally won in 94, we'd really been practicing and working at it. And we learned a couple of key principles that I want to share with you. One, that the best method of leadership is 4 words in a particular order: listen, learn, help, and lead. So start out by listening to them and really listen to them in the sense of trying to learn from them. If you listen to them and learn from them, you almost always can help them. And if you help them, they'll usually ask you to be a leader, at which point you should go back and say, well, this is my plan, and then go back to listening. 1 or 2 other key phrases, one of which my wife repeats to me all the time, is that you have to have, I think, cheerful persistence. You have to persist because anything worth doing takes a lot of effort and a lot of persistence. But at least in America, you get much further in life if you're cheerful. Angry persistence or depressed persistence or unhappy persistence doesn't work very well. But cheerful persistence, which is an act of discipline, getting up every morning and deciding, I'm lucky to be alive. I'm lucky to be allowed to do the things I want to, and I'm going to go out and try to do the things. And then lastly, I would say to you, have the courage to both dream big and be yourself. If you don't, particularly if you're young, the people I'm talking to who are the students, you don't dream big when you're young, you probably won't learn how to dream big when you're old. But if you learn how to dream big when you're young, you'll carry it with your whole life. And then you just have to recognize that big dreams require a lot of work. They require a lot of learning. And you're not guaranteed you're going to get it, but you are guaranteed you have a chance to go and do something that's fascinating with your life, and then see what the results are. But the results aren't guaranteed, but the opportunity to have an effort is guaranteed. So I just should toss it back and let the students have at it.